Hey out there, this is November 21st, 2018, and it's just about almost exactly 9:30 in the morning here in Northern California. Today I'll get into a lot of stuff as usual. I kind of wanted the theme to be continuing on this idea of the establishment and the establishmentarians thereof, the partakers in the establishment, which really is essentially all of us because we're all kind of dragged. Even if you're kicking and screaming, you're dragged into and onto this ship of fools that's careening to destruction. And how this is happening is not just a quirk. It's not just happenstance. It's by deliberation. It's intentional. That humanity is being dragged down a path that is very nefarious, and the intentions are not good of bringing us down this path. And it's all emanating from the very top. And what we have is a critical mass of really, really, really evil people whose diabolism knows no limits. And the vast majority of people just can't wrap their minds around it, and they just cannot believe that anybody could be that diabolical. So this is how they continue to get away with it because, you talk about the evil people at the very top of the pyramid, the grand puppeteers, so to speak, and this would be, of course, the money printing class. People think you're a nut. They think you're paranoid. They think that you're just into conspiracy theories. But no, the stuff I get into is factual, and I can back it up with the facts. And if anything I say and I suggest as solutions sounds radical, it's because you've been trained thusly, and you would have to prove me wrong. You'd have to prove me wrong that there are not plentiful, simple solutions out there, and many ways to skin a cat, and I just point out a few. Okay, because there's many ways to thwart these evildoers, but so far, humanity has been ineffective, impotent at steering our own destiny. I mean, if the object is freedom, safety, security, prosperity, contentment worldwide, we've been on the wrong path for one hell of a long time. And if we read history, we can see there's been periods where the same thing has gone on over and over and over. I mean, how was America a good place to live when JFK was alive? Because there was hope, because people knew, hey, this is a good guy. He's a good American. Doesn't matter he's a Democrat, doesn't matter he's a Republican, whatever. The guy cares about people, human beings. He wants the best for people. And it's simple as that, is that if the world rulers, these grand puppeteers, were benevolent, okay, you would see progress. You would see positive progress, okay, because the other is negative regress. And that's all I've seen since that time. Okay, there was a money printing coup is what happened, and we haven't had America back. And by extension, the entire planet has suffered because they're all looking to America, rightfully or wrongfully, to set an example for them. So when things went askew and they went haywire for America, when there was really solid, tangible, concrete hope, okay, of a rising tide of prosperity that would lift all ships, and the method of operation was going to be sound economic policies, okay, that would create progress, which means slow, steady prosperity, which leads to things like freedom, which is at the top of your list of happiness. Like making a loaf of French bread, you need certain key ingredients. And the most key one is wheat, right? So freedom, when it comes to happiness, is at the very top of that list of ingredients for happiness. And we've been going the other direction. We've been losing freedom ever since. What do you think this wealth imbalance is? You think, who's doing this? You want to blame capitalism? Well, if you learned a modicum, a scintilla, an iota about macroeconomics from guys like Adam Smith, the world's greatest economist that ever walked the earth, in my humble opinion, that's well studied in these matters, I can tell you this much. that what I'm saying is accurate and true, that I know what I'm talking about here when it comes to progress and regress relative to macroeconomics and what you're looking for. Okay, freedom, financial freedom. Okay, this is a big component. This is what we have to focus on is the lack of financial freedom when it comes to this wealth imbalance that has been deliberately created. Okay, they can't steal your wealth. They can't create this imbalance if you don't let them. But we have let them. We have acquiesced. We have capitulated. We have succumbed to their powers and their vast powers. And they're walking all over the decent, upright people of society, those that keep the wheels of society turning, people doing jobs every day that are mundane, that get no status, and then they cheat them out of fair pay. But these jobs are imperative to the welfare of society. Do you understand the insanity? Do you understand the basis of why the Labor Department came up with a minimum wage law in the first place? That, I mean, how else are you going to avert slavery if there's no laws preventing it? And people will do a lot of things to survive. It comes down to that, to survival. Okay, so the higher your cost of living, the more burden you have, the less free you are. The lower your cost of living, the less burden you have, the more free you are. Okay? And you understand that this is by design. You can't blame capitalism. So if you know anything about capitalism, you know that it leads to progress relative to economics and finances. Not for some, not for a select privileged few. That's this wealth imbalance. A lot of people are rah, 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 cheerleading this crony capitalism. But I was just listening to Noam Chomsky, a video out of the 90s, I guess, when Clinton was in office. And he was just, he could see right through these people. He talked about Reagan and how utterly and profoundly failed his policies were. He was such a pushover for the bankster interests. I mean, all it does is just make things miserable for the poor. I mean, all these people out there, all these people, they call themselves liberal Democrats and socialists and all this. And a lot of these same people believe the earth is overpopulated, yet they're, cheerleading all immigrants in the world coming here, and they claim to be blue collar. And they cite that you're incompassionate if you don't want to allow everybody to come to America. It's a land of immigrants, and we need them, and we should welcome them. And you're just a big meanie and un-American and un-Christian. You're a hypocrite if you say that they all shouldn't be welcomed into America. Okay, and they claim to be for the people, but do they understand? And they do understand the implications of even worsening even more. The status for the working class, working poor, blue collar American people. Okay, it's just making things worse, and the worst part is that there's no attention paid to our own dire, poverty-stricken, destitute people living and dying out in the cold right now. I mean, are we hearing of images of what they're allowing to happen to our own native sons and daughters in America, citizens of America, born in America? Are they transmitting the images of tent cities in LA down to Honduras and Venezuela and wherever all these people are coming from? Are they? You know they're not. You understand how we're being played? Do you understand? It reminds me of that idiot Bill Kristol, the commentator. I mean, this is all about keeping the cocky minimum wage workers. Can you imagine? In their place? Can you imagine? But look how the Labor Department deliberately dropped the ball. And I am not being cynical. They had to. These people have degrees, folks. They know that if you don't give a minimum wage worker a commensurate cost of living adjustment, if their cost of living goes up, unnaturally especially, but anyway it goes up. Maybe there was just a blight in the land and prices got really dear because, there was no more wheat. So you had to pay a fortune for wheat. Well, then the thing to do is to ration it at that point. That's the only fair, just, logical thing to do. You can't just say, well, only the rich now get to eat wheat. You can't do that. I mean, if we got to starve to death, we're going to have to starve to death together. That's why we fix the problems. We try to run into as few supply disruptions in the chain of supply as possible, and then meet them head on when they do arise, especially when it comes to essential human needs. And of course, wheat is kind of a staple around the world, right? So it's very important that we fix it and fix it fast. So we, the people, rally around and we say, what can we do to help? You know, and then you bring in all this volunteerism out there. Look at all the volunteerism. All these good-natured, good-souled, well-wishing volunteers. I'm giving selflessly of themselves. Yet are they not the ultimate scabs in this paradigm? I mean, what if you're doing a job and you need that money? I mean, to feed your family for doing that job, that somebody else comes in. So not only are they like a scab that breaks up a union and says, I'll do your job for less, but a volunteer comes in and says, no, I'll do it for absolutely free. You can't beat that. And I'll do a good job. My heart will be into it. I'll have a good attitude and all this stuff. Do you understand the madness that we have been overtaken with? This paradigm is untenable. How can we go on like this? This is sheer insanity, but this is what we got. We've been rendered into the image and likeness of our masters, and they're evil, and now we're all evil. It's like Jesus said in Scripture, he said, look, you can't serve two gods. You can't serve God and mammon, okay, two masters. Okay, this is what he said. But yet we all do it. It's kind of like how a parent tells their child, you cannot run across the street. Now, that child may not listen to their parents. Just because their parents said they cannot, they might find that enticing, intriguing, alluring. The taboo, oh, I cannot do this, huh, parent? I'll show you. I know how to get across that street safely. And boom, the next thing you know, they're hit by a car. Well, that's where we're all headed. That's what I mean about this ship of fools that's careening to destruction at the hands of these monsters, the money masters. This is how they're manipulating us. This is how they got us by the nose. This is how they've got us by the short hairs of our necks, and they're running roughshod over us. We've got to get it. They're liars, man. You think that they would hesitate to lie? Are you kidding me? These are mass murderers. They want to commit genocide on an unthinkable level. I'm not trying to be alarmist. These people are very overt about this stuff. Look at the Georgia Guidestones, these 10 new monuments, these giant granite monuments they've built in the state of Georgia. Okay, they sound really good. They sound altruistic. You understand? But understand this, they want to get the earth down to 500 million. So you do the math. That's well over 90% of the people they want to get rid of. And these are the gods of the world. These are the good guys that say, yes, this is it. You just have to die. So it's, you know, they bring in this, interject this what climate change thing is a problem. You know, they've been chemtrailing. People talk about how hot these fires have been burning up at Paris. Nobody can believe how could they burn with such fury and such heat. We've never seen anything like this. It's not just the wind. There's something going on. So people are speculating. They're talking about these laser weapons that are invisible. But, you know, it makes sense. I mean, if with a magnifying glass you could start a fire, okay, certainly you could do this from outer space and lasers. Maybe they're testing. Maybe they're having fun. Maybe Satan's involved. I mean, there's a lot more. It's like, who was it, Shakespeare that said, you know, there's far more on heaven and earth, Horatio, than your imagination will afford you, okay, than is in your imagination. You know, there's a lot going on here. So it could be tit for tat. But, you know, with every really big evil like this, something good has to happen. So, you know, hey, just hang in there. Just keep coping is my advice to everybody. Just trust God, that God is all good, God is real, and God is not a paper tiger, and he does avenge justice. He metes out justice on the evildoers. He frustrates the plans of the wicked and brings those plans to nothing. But about this hot fire, okay, all this chemtrailing they've been doing, you know, one of the key ingredients they've been finding is aluminum dust. Aluminum is one of the key ingredients. Whatever they're spraying with, whatever the pretense is, the pretext for spraying, okay, not even telling the public they're doing this, so there could be no debate about the health effects or the ecological effects, okay, of this spray that they're doing. But do you understand that, as far as I remember, aluminum powder, dust, whatever, is one of the key ingredients of thermite or thermate, a very, very explosive material. Okay, which would explain what happened here. It's mind-boggling when you hear the statistics of over 12,000 homes have been destroyed and businesses. structures. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Now the death toll is up to 81, and they think they're never going to find a lot of the victims because they were incinerated beyond. They're just powder now. Even the bones. How could this happen? I know that they've been remiss at taking care of, doing cleanup around that area. I mean, people can't afford it. So this is where the fire department's got to take charge and say, look, you've got 1 foot thick of pine needles in your yard here. What do you think happens when that ignites? So yeah, there's some prudent things we can do, like Trump was saying, to manage things right, because normally Mother Nature takes care of it with lightning strikes.